This video is about a specific, quiet kind of pain. It's the feeling that love, the thing that's supposed to feel like safety and connection, has started to feel like a slow, steady loss of yourself. It's not about dramatic fights or obvious abuse. It's about the moment you say yes to a weekend plan you dread because saying no might disappoint them. It's about biting your tongue during a conversation, editing an opinion, or quietly letting a dream for yourself gather dust, all because you believe, on some level, that this is the price of keeping love alive. This isn't a rare tragedy. It's a common erosion. And if you felt it, you're not confused or weak. You're likely caught in a specific pattern of relating that mistakes control for care and obligation for intimacy. Our goal here is to dissect that pattern, to separate healthy compromise, which is a choice, from identity erosion, which is a loss, and to give you a clear path to recognizing the difference. Let's start with a story. Meet Alex. Alex isn't a character from a novel. They're a composite of the quiet compromises so many of us make. A professional in their early 30s, in a relationship that looks stable from the outside. 6 months ago, Alex was offered a significant career move, a promotion that required relocating. Their partner was hesitant, anxious about leaving their own job and social circle. Alex's initial excitement quickly curdled into a sense of burden. They told themselves, "Love means support. I can't force this." They postponed the conversation indefinitely. This is one of Alex's specific moments. There are others. Avoiding a difficult conversation about finances because they fear it will lead to tension. Feeling a tightness in their chest, a responsibility for their partner's low mood, scrambling to fix it. Gradually, the music they play in the car, the friends they see, even the way they spend a quiet Sunday morning, all subtly shift to accommodate a silent, unspoken standard of keeping the peace. From the outside, Alex is considerate, adaptable, a good partner. But inside, a fundamental question is forming. Where did I go? This is the freedom you think you're giving. The autonomy surrendered not in one grand gesture, but in 100 small, daily negotiations where your own desires are always the first item on the bargaining table. The crucial thing to understand right now is this. The problem is not love itself. The problem is this specific pattern. A pattern where care gets confused with compliance, and where the fear of loss becomes the architect of your choices. So let's pause here, with Alex in that moment of quiet questioning. Because the next step is to look at how this happens, not as a moral failing, but as a set of psychological mechanics, the specific, learnable systems that can turn a relationship into a cage, even with the best of intentions. So how does this happen? How does a relationship, built on something as expansive as love, become a system that quietly removes your options? It's rarely one dramatic event. It's a set of psychological mechanics operating in the background of daily life. Think of it as 3 interlocking systems. The first is a codependency pattern. This is where your sense of worth becomes contingent on managing another person's emotional state. For Alex, this looked like becoming a human mood regulator. If their partner was stressed, Alex felt responsible for fixing it. If their partner was unhappy, Alex's entire day was derailed by the need to soothe and solve. Their own emotional weather became permanently tied to someone else's forecast. The unspoken rule is, your peace is my job. And when your self-worth is hooked to that job, saying no or prioritizing yourself feels like a profound failure, not of the relationship, but of your core duty. The second mechanism is identity erosion. This is the gradual, often unnoticed, abandonment of your own interests, opinions, and quirks to avoid conflict or disapproval. It starts small. Alex stopped going to the weekly pottery class they loved because their partner subtly dismissed it as a waste of a weekday evening. They began censoring their opinions on movies, books, even current events, mirroring back their partner's views to keep the atmosphere smooth. Each abandoned hobby, each suppressed thought, is a brick removed from the structure of who you are. You don't notice the missing bricks at first, only the growing, hollow feeling inside. You've made yourself easier to love, in theory, by making yourself less of a distinct person. The third gear is fear-based compliance. Every decision, from what to eat for dinner to whether to apply for a promotion, is run through a filter of dread, the fear of abandonment, or the fear of criticism. For Alex, the thought, "What if this upsets them?" or "What if they think I'm selfish?" became the automatic governor on their choices. They didn't say no to things because they wanted to be nice. They said yes because the alternative, facing disappointment, a cold shoulder, an argument, felt existentially threatening. Your freedom isn't stolen in a fight. It's surrendered in 1,000 tiny moments of choosing peace over authenticity, because the cost of authenticity feels too high. These three systems, codependency, identity erosion, fear-based compliance, often trace back to a deeper blueprint, our attachment style. Without diving into complex psychology, attachment theory helps explain the why behind the mechanics. If you have an anxious or insecure attachment style, often formed in early relationships, you may be predisposed to believe that love is unstable and must be constantly earned through vigilance and sacrifice. You're not broken. You're operating on an old, subconscious manual that says, to be loved, you must be needed. To be safe, you must not rock the boat. See the pattern? Freedom isn't confiscated. It's siphoned, drip by drip, choice by choice, through these daily, systematic mechanics. You wake up one day in a life built on accommodations you don't remember making, for a person you're not sure you still are. And this is where the most dangerous myth takes root. The belief that this draining, this erosion, is not the mechanics of a cage, but the very definition of love itself. And this is where the most dangerous myth takes root. The belief that this draining, this erosion, is not the mechanics of a cage, but the very definition of love itself. We are taught, in 1,000 subtle ways, that love is proven by what you give up, that the depth of your feeling is measured by the size of your surrender. It's a story woven into our culture, the grand, tragic romance where someone loses everything for love, and we're meant to see that as the ultimate proof. So when Alex feels that hollow resentment after canceling plans with friends for the third time, or that quiet dread before yet another weekend doing only what their partner wants, a part of them thinks, this is just what love requires. My discomfort is the cost. That is the myth of sacrifice. It's the false equation that suffering for someone is the same as loving them. But let's pull that myth apart with what we actually know about healthy human bonds. Decades of research in attachment theory show something counterintuitive. In secure, loving relationships, personal autonomy doesn't shrink, it expands. Your sense of self gets stronger, not weaker. You feel more capable in the world, not less. Because true security gives you a stable base to explore from, not a chain that keeps you in place. So if that's the reality of healthy love, what is Alex actually experiencing? It's not sacrifice, it's obligation. And the difference between the two is everything. A real sacrifice, in the healthy sense, is a conscious choice made from a place of abundance. You have a clear value, like family comes first, or I believe in this person's dream, and you willingly allocate a resource, time, energy, comfort toward it. It might be hard, but it doesn't erase you. It comes from a desire to give. Obligation, on the other hand, comes from a place of depletion and fear. You're not choosing based on your values. You're complying based on their anxiety, their disapproval, or your own dread of conflict or abandonment. It doesn't come from a desire to give, but from a fear of loss. And every act of obligation contracts your sense of self. It's a withdrawal from your own account to pay a debt you didn't agree to. This is Alex's hollow feeling. Postponing their career move isn't a sacrifice for a shared future. It's an obligation paid to avoid their partner's insecurity. Silencing their opinion isn't a gift of peace. It's a toll paid to keep the boat from rocking. The myth had them convinced these were acts of love. But the reality is, they are acts of self-erosion. So here is the litmus test, the one question to separate the myth from the reality in any decision. Does this act expand my sense of self or contract it? Does it feel like a choice flowing from who I am and what I care about, or like a demand I'm obeying to avoid a consequence? The cognitive shift is this: love that requires you to disappear is not love. It is a form of control dressed in the costume of devotion. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. The cage isn't made of love. It's held together by a mistaken story, which means the next question isn't about blaming the myth, but about auditing the reality. If your freedom has been siphoned away under the guise of sacrifice, where exactly did it go? And more importantly, how do you start to account for it? So, how do you move from that abstract realization, the myth is broken, to concrete, personalized data? The answer isn't a dramatic confrontation or a life-upending decision. It starts with a simple, structured self-assessment. Think of it as an autonomy audit, not a pass/fail test, but a diagnostic tool. Its purpose is to create awareness, to pinpoint exactly where the mechanics of the cage are operating in your daily life. And it works by asking 3 core questions. First, when you make a decision that affects you both, where does the final weight land? Do you choose based on a clear, internal value, or based on a predicted reaction, a fear of disappointment, conflict, or withdrawal? This question targets the engine of fear-based compliance. For Alex, applying this meant seeing that turning down the promotion wasn't about career timing. It was about preemptively managing their partner's insecurity. The choice wasn't value-based, it was fear-based. Second, whose emotional state do you feel responsible for managing? Do you find yourself constantly monitoring moods, smoothing over irritability, or feeling anxious until they're happy? This gets at the heart of codependent patterns. For Alex, this question illuminated the exhausting background task of their life, calibrating every word and action to maintain peace, believing their love was measured by their ability to prevent their partner's discomfort. And third, what have you stopped doing, dreaming about, or expressing for the sake of harmony? This reveals identity erosion. It's the abandoned hobby, the unpursued idea, the opinion you swallow. Alex's answer was a list: the photography class, the weekend hikes with friends, the political debates they now avoided. Each item was a small piece of themselves, quietly shelved. The power of these questions is in their specificity. They transform a vague feeling of being trapped into identifiable data points. So, here's the immediate application. Pause. Ask yourself these 3 questions and answer with ruthless honesty. Don't judge the answers, just observe them. This isn't about blaming your partner or declaring your relationship a failure. It's about auditing the reality of your freedom. The audit gives you a map. It shows you the specific junctions where you might be handing over your agency, believing it's the cost of love. And with that map, you're no longer lost in a fog of obligation. You have coordinates, which leads to the natural, urgent next question: what do you do with this map? If your freedom has been siphoned away in these specific areas, how do you start to reclaim it? The map isn't for navigating back to them. It's for navigating back to you. So the goal shifts, fundamentally. It's no longer about fixing the relationship or gathering the courage to leave it. The first and only goal is to reclaim your own sovereignty, the internal authority to choose. And you rebuild that authority not with one grand, dramatic gesture, but through small, consistent acts of self-honoring. Think of it like physical therapy for a muscle that's atrophied. You don't start by trying to lift the heaviest weight. You start with the smallest, most manageable movement. In the context of your relationship, this is a micro-boundary. Look at your audit. Where is one specific, low-stakes junction where you consistently hand over your choice? Maybe it's always saying yes to plans you don't enjoy, or automatically apologizing to keep the peace, or letting your morning ritual slide because it inconveniences their routine. Your first act is to identify that one spot. Then you practice. This week, you say, actually, I'd rather not go to that event, but I hope you have a great time. Or you don't apologize for a neutral opinion. Or you get up 20 minutes earlier to reclaim your quiet coffee. The content doesn't matter. The mechanism does. You are practicing the feeling of autonomous choice in a context where the perceived cost of doing so is felt catastrophic. This is not an act of rebellion against your partner. It is an act of fidelity to yourself. Its purpose isn't to provoke a fight or test their love. Its purpose is to strengthen the muscle of your own no and your own yes, so that you remember what it feels like to operate from preference, not fear. The outcome of this practice is not that your partner suddenly changes or that the relationship is saved. The outcome is that you change. You become a person who knows, in their bones, that their choices belong to them. And from that solid ground, every other decision, whether to stay, to negotiate, or to leave, becomes clearer. It comes from alignment, not desperation. This is where the channel's work on mental discipline meets the road. True resilience under pressure isn't shown in your ability to endure an oppressive dynamic. It's shown in the courageous, quiet daily work of choosing alignment over compliance, of building a self that can engage with love, with work, with life, from a place of freedom, not fear. That is the freedom no one can take away, because it's the freedom you rebuild, choice by choice, within yourself.